Welcome to another episode of Dispelling anti-Mormon lies, myths, and rumors. My name is Jeremy Goff. Today's topic that I'm going to be addressing is gays in the church and how we are losing this battle, not because doctrinally we have flaws, but because culturally we have allowed Satan to frame this question. And I'm going to go ahead and be addressing that. Before I get started, if you want to go ahead and post where you're watching from, it's always fun to see people from all around the world who watch these videos. And also, if you have any topics you would like covered, please feel free to message me. So, gays in the church is a sensitive subject to a lot of people. I have a lot of friends who are gay, and it is something that's really hard for many people who struggle with same-gender attraction. And Elder Bednar one time was talking, and somebody asked him about gays in the church, and he said something that really shocked a lot of people, and it really has been taken out of context, and that was, he said, there is no such thing as a gay member of the church. And that really just caused a lot of people to get really upset. And I want to go ahead and explain a little bit more about what he's talking about, because I think that this right here is why we're losing this battle, is we're allowing Satan to frame the question. The question becomes is, what do we identify as? There is two options. We can identify by the divinity of our creation or by the conditions of our fall. To understand what I'm talking about, you really need to understand what's called the three pillars of eternity. The first pillar of eternity is our divine creation. We were created, divinely created, by loving heavenly parents. We are their children. We have the potential and the ability and the birthright to become like them. Because of the fall, we have a fallen condition and we live in a fallen world. We have things that we struggle with, and we have temptations, and we have sins, and we have all these different aspects. Because of the atonement, we are redeemed from the fall and put back into the condition of our creation. And it's really important to understand this, because this right here is where we lose the framing of the question. A lot of people will ask, well, what about gays in the church? Well, the problem here is that there's no such thing as a gay person. There's no such thing as a straight person. There's no such thing as white people or black people, because what it really comes down to is those are conditions of the fall. Those are not eternal. When we are resurrected, we are not going to be identified by those conditions. We're going to be identified by the condition of being a son or a daughter of God. When we allow Satan to frame the question, then we all of a sudden are trying to fix his loaded question. But when we allow ourselves to say that we are children of God, then we can act out of love. We don't judge other people. We don't act differently. We look at all people and we say, that is a child of God. He may be a practicing Muslim, but he's a child of God. He may be this, but he's a child of God. Now, not only does Satan use this to attack gays within the church, he also uses it to attack everyday members of the church. He uses it to attack everybody. If he can get us to identify by anything other than the divinity of our creation, then we don't feel worthy to partake of the atonement. We don't feel worthy to be part of the church. And we can become bitter over the church and over its policies and practices, and we can become very bitter. But when you're willing to sacrifice your pride, and you're willing to look at it from the aspect of the three pillars of eternity, creation, fall, and atonement, then you realize what Satan is trying to do is he wants us to identify by the conditions of the fall. Because if we put our identity as fallen creatures as our preeminent identity, then everything the gospel does, everything the gospel is, and everything the gospel teaches is going to be foreign to us. It's going to make us angry, it's going to make us bitter, and it's going to seem as if it's trying to take away what we hold dear. But if you're willing to look at it and say, no, the fall is what's temporal, the atonement is to bring back the eternal, then everything else changes. Now, this was a conversation I actually had at an LGBTQ summit. See, what a lot of people don't realize is I do a lot of work with places who try to help and reach out to those who struggle with same-sex attraction and other issues, because I think that everyone should know that they are loved, and everyone should know that they have allies, and that everyone should be able to count on a Latter-day Saint to be an ally. And I remember I was at an event, it was called Ignite, and I was assigned a group, and this group started smack-talking the church. And for almost 2 hours, they smack-talked conservatives, Republicans, members of the church, BYU, serving missions, everything under the sun. They were vile, and it was pretty disgusting. And at the end of about 2 hours, we had about another hour left of our service, and they asked me, well, what about you? What's your story? Are you gay? Are you trans? Or what's going on? And I'm like, I am actually a straight, white, conservative, male, Republican, RM member of the church who does social media stuff to try to do missionary work. And everyone's jaws just went. And they realized that they had been attacking me. And they're like, what are you doing here? And I said, I'm here because everyone in this room and everyone in this building is a child of God. And the thought that a child of God would feel so unloved that they think that the only way out is suicide is something that I don't think should happen. And I think it's worth taking time to stand up against. And I want them to know that they're children of God. Period. The end. No buts. And it was interesting as everyone's demeanor shifted. They went from attacking the church and attacking this and labeling all the blame on the churches to all of a sudden shifting. And they're like, well, what do you mean by this? And I explained to them that the doctrines of the church are quite simple and quite straightforward. Every single person is a child of God. Period. The end. There are no exceptions to that rule. Every single person has a right and deserves to be loved and treated fairly and correctly. Period. The end. And they struggled, and they were like, why would the church support Love Louder and Love Vest last year, but not this year? It's because you hate gays. And I'm like, no. Last year was quite simple. Last year, the belief was, you deserve to know that you are loved. And the church helped support that. This year, it changed. And this year, it was, you deserve to know that you are loved, and we love you the way, and we accept the way that you love others. And I'm like, the church won't ever agree to that. Because what it comes down to is, we are all children of God. We have divine potential. And the church is never going to show love by doing something that will cause us to not be able to fulfill our divine potential. The purpose of the church is to help us to use the atonement to return to the conditions of the divinity of our creation, not to stay and to wallow in the conditions of the fall. And it was interesting as they all started to take a step back, and we had a discussion about the church. And we had a discussion about how we truly believe that everyone is a child of God. And I basically told them, I'm like, members of the church may not always live the doctrines of the church. You may have things that will cause frustration, and the culture may cause you to be upset. But what is clear is that Christ loves everyone, and He's commanded us to do the same. And when you understand that, and when you understand the pillars of eternity, the creation, the fall, and the atonement, then you realize that there is no such thing as gay members of the church. There's no such thing as straight members of the church. There's not fifth generation members of the church, or less active, or fully active, or RMs, or all these different labels. Satan is the one that gets us and causes us to want to use labels. Really what it comes down to is that we are all children of God. We have an opportunity to come unto Him. And if we come unto Him alone, He's going to ask where are our brothers and sisters. Because if we truly love Him, we'll learn and we'll realize that those around us are our brothers and sisters. And we're not going to love people, we're not going to hate people, we're going to love them. We're going to cause them to feel the love of Christ through us. There should be no need for organizations like Encircle in Utah. Everyone should be loved. Everyone should know that they are a child of God. Everyone should know that their life is worth living. The danger we have is when we peg our identity to a specific thing. Whether it is people who are in the LGBTQ community saying, I am gay and that is who I am. Because then the church's stances on gay marriage, you can construct it as the church attacking you. It's not. The church is attacking a condition of the fall. A condition of the fall that will not continue after the resurrection. There will be no gay people in the resurrection. There will be no same-gender attraction in the resurrection. There will be no LGBTQ. There will be no fat or skinny. There will be no white nor black, Republican or Democrat. All these labels that we use to divide ourselves and subdivide ourselves are all conditions of the fall, and none of them will exist. None. In the millennium and in the next life. And so rather than dividing and subdividing and labeling and unlabeling and excluding and including people based upon their conditions of the fall, let us learn to love all people, to love and to realize that everyone is a child of God. Because truly, there's nothing that will unify the human race more than to truly understand and believe that we are literal children of deity. No other church teaches that. Other churches believe that through grace you're adopted into the family of Christ and adopted into the family of God. But no, the church teaches that inherently all people are children of God, regardless of their decisions, regardless of their actions, regardless of their orientation, regardless of any condition of the fall. You are a child of God. And through the atonement of Jesus Christ, we are able to overcome the effects and the conditions of the fall and return to the divinity of our creation. Some of the effects will be able to be overcome in this life. Some of them won't be until the next life. But through Christ, all things will be made right, and all things that are eternal will last, and all things that are not eternal will be done away with. So that's how we lose the argument, is we allow Satan to frame it. So the next time you meet somebody, and they say that they're gay, or they're Republican, or they're Democrat, or they're this or they're that, smile and say that in my book, the most important thing about you is that you're a child of God. In the words of Donald L. Hallstrom, it is essential that our preeminent identity is as a child of God. That is my testimony. We are children of God. And if we start acting like children of God and treating others like children of God, the vast majority of our cultural problems will be done away with. You all have a great rest of your Sabbath day.